everyone. Welcome to this episode. I'm saying this episode. Oh, thank you, Ellen. I know. I do a quick scan of the hits. This is my DJ secret. My name is Siobhan. I'm your host, and I intro these by doing a quick scan of like the top 10 or so songs going on right now, top 40, 10 to 40, and then I pick one that I'm quite partial to. So there you have it. Ellen, I'm glad you agree with me in the music of the moment. So this episode, and I'm saying just episode. I think we've had probably 50 of these, David,
14,
maybe
14.
Okay. Is it just
Yeah,
14?
14. Yeah. Well, that means 28 voice actors. Yeah. How's that?
That means 20 voice actors.
Yeah.
Okay,
Today's
and I guess
episode 15. And then again, I've been wrong many times
you
before.
know what? So have I. So many episodes we've come together to hang out and talk shop and check out voiceover studios of fellow workers in our community. And so it's a really wonderful time. If you haven't been here before, we are super excited to have you. This is a free event that Edge is very lucky and happy to be able to offer, that we have the kinds of resources and the kind of community. So the folks you're seeing on screen, our special guests tonight, are volunteers. They're people who want to help share and grow and learn right alongside y'all. And so we're all here out of the goodness of our hearts, and it's very wonderful. Speaking of good-heartedness, if you all don't know my friend David Goldberg. David, how you doing?
I'm well, Siobhan. Great. I love the music tonight, too. Fabulous. It's so hard not to sing out loud, and I sing horribly, but like you hear music like that, how can you not dance and sing? And I'm not prepared to do that, like on Zoom, recorded Zoom, but great song. Great song. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Home Studio Show and Tell. Listen, guys, have your chat opened, okay? Because usually there are just superb comments put out into the chat. So I'd open up your chat and kind of follow along. Siobhan, take it away. Actually,
yeah,
sorry. I just want to say a special hello to Bonnie and Chris and Chris's daughters who are on with us tonight, Gracia and Eliana. We'll hear more about them pretty soon.
We sure will. So the way this is going to work, if it's your first time, is that we are showcasing our special guests who David announced just now. And we're going to bring one to the Zoom stage, and we will chat with them a little bit, and they will give us a tour and try not to give us vertigo in the process of the virtual tour. Then we will do a little bit of a chat with them. We'll release them. Then we'll bring the second guest up. Same thing. And then we'll throw more questions towards the end. We are here for an hour, right? Everybody's donated time tonight. So, and also we want everyone to go back to their lives. So we cannot keep our guests forever and ever, but we're going to keep it streamlined as best as we can. And definitely we love, if you have questions, thoughts, we love for you to prompt them and ask them. That's what we're here to do. We are not here to tell you how to build your own studio for your own particular space. We are not here to tell you which exact items and equipment you should get for your particular space. What you can do, and what we are here to do, is see what's working for our guests' particular spaces, right? Just as our own voices are unique and beautiful individually, so are our home studios. So we do not claim to, provide the service to give you the catch-all and solve all your problems tonight, but you should receive some guidance, some inspiration, some food for thought. And as always, if you need the one-on-one attention, Edge Studio provides that official paid service through home studio consultation. Okay. So if you're like, oh, I got a million questions after this, that is where I'm going to direct you. And I will give you links in order to do so. With that being said, David, have I missed anything about the night, the hour ahead?
No, I'm sorry, what?
He doesn't think so. I think I've done great. He said you were perfect, Siobhan. Okay, so with this,
sorry, maybe I missed something.
I was like, did I miss anything in my intro about what we're doing tonight?
Oh no, it was fabulous. I want to mention something. Tim Gleason, you had the best thing to say at the beginning of last month's episode, and I just want to tell you that I appreciated what you said, and I'll remind everyone. Or some of you may not have heard it, of course. I'm going to remind you, Tim, what you said last month at the beginning of this show. And I can't tell you how many people have reached out to me and said, that was the coolest thing. At the beginning of last month's show, Siobhan, you were not on, so I got the host, which was very fun. But we love having you back. So of course you're welcome back. At the beginning of the show, I said to everyone, who here has seen every episode? And Tim spoke up and he had seen every episode. And I said, what brings you back? Tim, what you said, or do you want to come on and do you remember, if you remember, Tim, and if you want to come back on, can we, Tim, Siobhan, can we bring people on to talk, or is everyone automatically muted now?
I have the power to unmute them.
Okay. I don't know if Tim is coming on or not. I'm not sure how to even tell. Let me scroll down to his name
there
here. Tim, there you are. I hear your voice.
Yes. I'm trying to remember exactly what I had said. I think it had something to do with the fact that there are so many studios and so many different ways that people use the environment that they have.
Yeah,
and the creativity of taking the space that is available,
yes,
and turning it into something that's actually practical and useful and being able to create a broadcast quality product.
Yes, and it was wonderful, wonderfully said. And for those of you who are in the midst of building a studio or thinking about building a studio, maybe someday you will have a studio, one of the coolest things about seeing these episodes is that you'll realize every studio is different. There is no one right way to build a studio or have a studio. And whereas a triple walled studio bricks booth might be right for one person that costs what, $15,000, a closet with sweaters might be absolutely right for someone else. And I think we're going to have a nice range of studios tonight to talk about. And so, Tim, that was terrific. And yeah, people have commented on that particular comment. That was perfect. For those of you who have not seen last month's episode, it was a great episode. So that was episode 14, I think, would be fun to watch. Okay. Thank you, Tim.
Amazing. And also, David, can you introduce our first guest, because I don't remember the order.
The Damsgaard family is going first. Yeah, so
amazing.
Yeah, Chris Damsgaard. And Chris, I don't even know, sorry to say, if you do voiceover. I think it's just your 4 kids.
It is. I'm an engineer. I don't do really anything.
That's what I remembered. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Here's a non-voice actor showing his studio. Why? Because he has 4 kids who have done super well and do amazing projects. All 4 of Chris's kids, 2 of which who are on this evening. You can see Gracia to his right, and Eliana is now at college and is calling from her friend's dining room, I think he said. So Chris, can we get a real brief bio of what your family does in terms of voiceover, how you got into it, real short, what kinds of work do they do?
Yeah, real brief, like most people, or many people, started during COVID. And Eliana is a kind of a songwriter, a budding songwriter. And so I got her some equipment and software to record some of her songs. But around that time, I also needed a teen female voice for a presentation at work. We were doing a little video. And so I grabbed her. I said, hey, you got a microphone. Why don't you do this for us? And she hit a home run. And one of my coworkers heard it, who is neighbor to, you may know, Kelly Buttrick, voice actor, longtime voice actress.
I know
and he said, we need to introduce you to Kelly and have her tell you about this industry because there's opportunities for you. And so we jumped in. Eliana jumped in, met with Kelly. It was fantastic. And once she started getting gigs and paid, the other kids go, wait a minute. You got how much to do what? And so they all said, I am in. And everybody jumped in. We got training. Started right here with Edge Studio, all the Q&A sessions that you do. We watched every single one of them. And Ashley actually won one of your monthly contests, or got second place, I guess, and got some training with Noel Romano. So that was our first foray into training. And the rest, I guess, is history. We've done all genres. The kids have done over 1,200 gigs in the last 3 years.
So the kids are excited, and I'm thinking you guys are, Chris, you and your wife are probably pretty excited about college money.
We are. We're thrilled, but totally fell into this.
Yeah, that's great. That's terrific. Gracia and Eliana, congratulations to you. Isn't it? It's so much fun, right?
She only talked about the
script. Gracia, you are a paid voice actor, and we can't even get a word. We just get a mm-hmm. Let's hear a word. Okay, so Bonnie, Chris, thank you so much for telling us about your family. Bonnie, hello.
David, we're gonna do the tour now before we do the second
Oh, you
right?
know what? I thought we would do just a brief bio and then, but okay, that's absolutely fine. Totally cool. So let's do a tour of the Damn Scarred studio.
All right, I'm gonna flip you around here. Okay, so this is our workstation. We were pretty fortunate where our house, we moved in right before COVID, and we have a huge storage area on the other side. We're in the basement, a huge storage area on the other side. And for some reason, they built this small kind of 5x8 storage area in the total opposite corner of the house. We had no idea why it was here. Well, turns out it makes a fantastic studio. We started out upstairs when we were just getting started, and the typical blanket over the head, to get things done. And it was okay, but you could definitely have noise bleeding through and so on. So we moved down here, and the first thing we did to try to make sure the space was as dead as possible is we took the kids' bedroom mattresses. And so we've got 5 mattresses that line this room. Fortunately, it's got 2 foundation walls, so we don't get a lot of outside noise to begin with, but it definitely deadens the space to use their mattresses. And so they slept on the floor for over a year to be able to do this. And we've since got them their own mattresses, so don't call Child Protective Service on us. But it was fantastic for us. It was a great space. But with being that I'm directing the kids all the time, it was important to have our computer and our workspace outside of the studio. And then I needed a way to talk to them and get them their scripts and so on if I didn't want to print everything out. So we went with a secondary monitor that sits right on the table. We've got a shotgun mic. It's a Sennheiser 416 that we chose. And then I've got a talkback mic right here and a headphone amp. Our first attempt was we used a foot pedal that comes with the headphone amp so that anytime I wanted to talk, I just step on the pedal. It goes right into their headset in the booth. And that got pretty annoying to always have to be stepping. And so I figured out with our DAW that I could just use the PreSonus Studio 24C. It's got 2 mic inputs. So I just have that mic open all the time, and we just don't capture that track while we're recording. So they can hear me at any time in their headsets just by monitoring that second channel. But as we're recording, it never captures me. It works out perfect for us to have kind of this talkback system where I can give them direction in between takes. So that works great. We are, as I said, in a basement, and right above us is the kitchen. And there's a lot of activity. We get a lot of kids coming through the house. And so it gets pretty noisy up there. So to let people know that we're recording and they need to be quiet, normally this light is upstairs in our kitchen. And then I've got it hooked up to our Amazon Echo. And so I can just say, Alexa, turn on the smart switch.
Very
this
cool.
will go upstairs. So I don't have to run upstairs, tell everybody, flip on a light and so on. It'll just go, Alexa, turn off the smart switch. So I thought that was pretty creative. It was a $20 solution. But yeah, in terms of the space, there's plenty of room, being that the room is big enough for the kids to move around. That's really important when they're doing, especially animation jobs where they really need to bring their physicality to the job. A new addition is the mattress on top. We have an unfinished space. Talk about ventilation. It doesn't blow in here, but this is the duct that comes right from the furnace room, which is kind of through around the corner. And so we shut that off whenever we're recording so that we don't have any noise coming from the air system. But, one of the wishes that I have for this room as we continue investing is we could easily build a room within a room here. There's plenty of space for it. It's just a cost. Got the skills to do it. It's just, what do I really want to do? What kind of installation do I want to have? Every now and then we'll get bleed through from a lower airplane. We're in Minneapolis area. I don't know if I mentioned that. We're in Minneapolis. So we get planes from time to time where we live in the suburbs, but lawnmowers next door is probably the most disruptive. And so if we were to do something with, some real bulk room within a room walls to block out that noise, I think would be really helpful. But it's just an investment, and we'll get there. But yeah, in terms of the kids being able to, get their scripts, we prefer to do it on a screen so that I can edit anything in the scripts and just type it for them. With Gracia, especially when she was a couple of years ago, she'd get a lot of scripts with big words, even sometimes medical jobs where she can't pronounce these words. And so we would do phonetic spelling like that. We found that worked really well for her, where I could just go on, type on the script on the screen and say, Gracia, how would you spell the word? And I'd say whatever the word is, and she'd tell me how she'd spell it. I'd type that in. It's usually phonetically, and that would work out perfect for her to be able to get through the script as a youngster. That's really it in terms of our equipment and our setup. For all 4 kids, it's great. They can sit if they need to, they can move around if they need to, and then to be able to be right out here and talking directly into their headset, I think are the biggest features of our studio.
Chris, I have a few questions. First of all, this is fabulous. Love seeing this stuff. It's so much fun. A couple of questions. Tell us about the different mics you have used. You began with Eliana's microphone at some point. What kind of mics have you changed mics, and if so, what? And secondly, do the kids ever record to picture? I'd be curious about that.
They do. So first, we started with AKG P120. It was $150 or something, and we got the Studio One with it. That was Eliana's kind of music setup, and that worked for a while. It was great. But as we studied and learned what other people were doing, what worked well, wanting to have that directionality of the shotgun mic, we found a great deal on the Sennheiser, which is usually like $1,000 microphone, right? We got a really good deal on it. And so that's where we moved up. So that's really been our 2 microphones. Now that Eliana is at college, we're going through this right now this week. We bought her a Rode Video Mic 2 Go, something like that. For like $100, and the sound that comes out of it is good enough to do auditions for sure, and certain types of jobs. But like Eliana said in the pre-time here, she came home today from college just to be able to do a gig where it was really important to be in our studio and have that studio quality sound coming.
And what about reading to picture?
And with reading to picture, so I have 4 kids. Gracia's 10, Ashley is 13, Seth, our only boy, is 16, and Eliana is 18 now. And Gracia and Seth have both done some to picture where they're trying to match lip flaps, a lot of either language dubbing type jobs, most likely. And being able to bring that right through on the screen has worked fantastic, because some of these have been international where they're playing the video on their side. One was out of Spain. And the kids were able to just sit and watch it right there on the screen and then aim to match it.
Terrific. Can you do a couple more questions, if you don't mind? Again, this is fascinating. Do you have the ability to link everyone up through IPDTL or Source Connect or some type of remote connectivity?
Yeah, we have both. We've never been asked to use the IPDTL. We've used exclusively Source Connect. The one that I just mentioned that was in Spain, they had another piece of software that had the video component come with it. So there's been some kind of odds and ends remote, and of course Zoom and Google Meeting, where they have us record and then just send them the file. But Source Connect all the time. That was something that we invested in right away and put to use. A lot of the gigs from our agents require it. So that's being in Minneapolis, especially, we're not going into the LA or New York studios. And it's worked out fantastic for us here. I was fortunate with the ceiling that we have. I was able to get a wired connection that's important for Source Connect. And so I was able to snake it through, again, back through the ductwork and get a long cable that came right here so we could be hardwired all the time.
And what about playback? Can you give playback to a client?
Yes. So with the PreSonus interface, we use what's called loopback. And when you turn loopback on with this interface, it can play what's coming out of the DAW through to Source Connect or Zoom or any other source.
Okay. I have one other question, but I do want to make sure anyone who's listening out there, you all have the opportunity to ask questions. Siobhan, you're probably monitoring the questions. Are there questions for Chris?
They're pretty chill so far. There's some curiosity about if you would get a porta booth, if you've thought about doing that. I'm curious what Eliana's studying at college.
So I can answer the porta booth quick. We looked at those, looked at the costs, even used, and thought, we've got such a perfect room. It would be more cost effective and fun for us to really build our own. in this.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly, I'd say like it sounds great in there. When it's lined with mattresses, including on the ceiling,
Mm-hmm.
assuming there's no ambience inside that mattress fort,
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know why you'd need to change anything.
Right.
You know,
And that's what's held us back, is, because it probably cost us, I estimate, about 3,000 to really build out and do it right. And
then you have to worry about ventilation, which is a hardship.
Mm-hmm.
That has been a discussion in many home studio show and tells. People have their first studio and they think they're fine, and then they get their first audiobook or some long form narration, and they realize, oh boy, it's pretty hot in this little booth. I mean, they do heat up. So that ventilation, the fact that you are opened, is just a very fortunate situation. Like the way it worked out. Like
And
you
being
said,
in the basement in Minnesota, we have the opposite problem where the kids are just freezing. So a lot of times these blankets that we use here will come down and they're wrapping themselves up to try to stay warm.
what about a space heater?
Yeah, we had that. In fact, funny story, one of the first gigs that we did, I had the space heater in there to warm it up and forgot to turn it off during the gig. And this was a remote session with a client. And so we ended up redoing the entire recording ourselves right after the session to send them a clean take. Rookie mistake there.
You mean, in other words, the heater was making noise of some sort?
Yeah, yeah, you
Oh.
could hear just enough of a fan in the recording because it was basically sitting right inside the door.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Did you? Oh, that's great. Siobhan, I think you have a question.
Yes. What is the interface model you're using, Chris? Tim
Yep,
says that he has the pre ones as well, but he doesn't think it has the loop back.
this is a Studio 24C, and when I look at their software, it's called Universal Control. It looks like it has a loop back that would apply to all of them, but I'm not an expert on every model they have.
I'm also okay, so great. So Robert, thank you. I was gonna unmute you, but you put it in the chat. Well done, my friend. Robert says, should someone consult a friend to help you evaluate the proposed space you want to use? The honestly rate the silence factor. Okay, let me.
But they want to know, like, does it make sense to have that room checked by someone with, who's listened to 1,000 studios like myself? I think Robert is saying. I know Robert, he's great. Terrific, amazing voice. And hi, Robert. And yeah, I mean, before you go in and build another room, I think what Robert is saying is maybe just ask someone like me to listen to a file or someone else. And because if we listen to it and say, man, it sounds great, like it sounds really, really good, there may not be a reason to redo anything. I will say someone just posted a really interesting question, Chris. They said space heaters are a fire risk, and you're in a whole room full of mattresses. So something to think about. And I'm the first one who said, like, could you put a space heater in? Oh, someone wrote, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's exactly what they wrote. So,
Chris, you've got a family of workers at this point. Does it ever get kind of bumper to bumper in the studio?
Absolutely,
how do you
it
balance
does. Yep. So when it comes to scheduling sessions with clients, and thankfully a lot of these are self-directed where we can do them ourselves. Even with some of the animation studios, they've let us do that. It's a whole lot easier to work around everyone's schedule. But there have been times where it is bumper to bumper, and for me, like my whole evening could be booked working through all four of the kids and the types of jobs they have.
And so how did it just my curiosity, how did it come to be that all four became voice act? Was it really just like a dominoes effect where it was like everybody, like, was there one person who was the straggler? Okay, like, yeah, now I want in, or did it truly happen that quickly that the one had the gig and the other three came?
It was true that Eliana had the gigs, started coming, and the other kids saw what she was doing and what she was getting. We've always been kind of a small business family. My son, when he was 9, started a golf business and does some work actually for the PGA Tour. So he's been doing that for a long, long time as a youngster. And so we're already business minded, and the kids were tuned to that and go, I mean, I can make even more money doing something like this, and how fun does that look? So they jumped in.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like I have my both of my sons have recorded audiobooks at this point, and it's super fun. It really is. Oh, I had a question. Before we switch, we only have a few minutes left. We need to switch to Bonnie in a moment. Oh my goodness, I forgot my question. Oh, sorry. Never mind.
Well, Harry is asking what the noise floor is, if you'd like to share, Chris.
Yeah, so I would say most, like if the lawnmower next door is not going, it's probably -60. Like I don't see activity below, or sorry, above that. And we've had to send ambient no, kind of audio tests into, especially with the animation studios. They want to know what it sounds like, and we'll send that in. And we've never gotten any kind of feedback of concern.
I remember my last question. What about you? Will you ever do voiceover? And what about your wife?
No, no, not gonna happen.
That's a fast no.
I like directing. I have a good ear for things. I've developed a good ear, and I love the technology side and the business side, and keeping that going and helping market the kids. You know, we put that book out to try to help others. I like that side of things. I'm not a voice actor.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Gracia and Eliana, do either of you want to say anything?
She doesn't know.
Okay, I'm not sure if Eliana is still on. But this is so cool. There's some great comments. Chris, you may want to download the chat, which myself or Siobhan will talk about at the end of this hour. We'll tell you guys how to download the chat. Just because it might be really interesting to read through the chat. There are a fair number of entries, and so everyone knows there is a page on our website where all of the previous home studio show and tells are posted. So you can watch all, you can binge watch all 14 past ones, 15 including today, which would be very fun, I think. And I don't know. Thank you, Chris. Fabulous. What a terrific family. What a terrific tour. Inspirational to see, as Tim Gleason in the beginning said, you've taken your space and you've figured out how to make the most out of that space. And you are the first mattress studio we've had on the show. I know of other mattress studios, but we've never had anyone on the show. So congratulations to that. And yeah, thank you. Thank you. Do you have any questions for the community? Seriously, Chris, do you have any questions? Oh,
sorry,
Chris,
I thought you said thank you before I gave him applause.
well, I was, but I have Chris, one last question. Do you have questions for the Zoom community? Do you have questions, for example, you've been trying to find something or figure out something that maybe you can post a question and people may type in some answers?
Yeah, I think for me, it really is about blocking that lawnmower noise is the biggest need we have, because that is the biggest worry that I have that could disrupt us. Say we were in a session and somebody starts up next door, we try to schedule around that. And so, is it the rock wool? Is it just, mass concrete? Like what is going to do the best job of blocking out that lawnmower noise?
Oh, I have an idea for you.
Mm-hmm.
Just cut the yard next door. Just pay for the lawn cutting service.
Let's send my kids over to
yeah. Voiceover and lawn mowing service. No, seriously, like, what I don't know how much it costs, but like to build a whole studio out just for that, and you said $3,000, perhaps it will cost a lot less if you actually buy the lawn cutting service for the neighbors.
Look a lot cooler though. If we finish this space, I think it would look very nice, and maybe be an asset when we go to sell the house, right? Maybe somebody's looking for something like this.
You never know. Yeah. Well, fabulous. Chris, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Eliana and Gracia, thank you two so much too.
Thank you.
Pretty good applause there.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. We professionals here. So, Bonnie.
Yes, ma'am.
How are you doing?
I am great. And it's funny, I did move into the basement because of lawnmowers when the third neighbor decided to pick a different day. Originally, everyone had been on Thursdays. It's like, yeah, I can kind of live with that. I'll do some of my business stuff. But by the time my neighbors had split their days, I'm like, that's it. I'm moving to the basement. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that move when we go. I grew up in a performing household. My parents had sang for years before they had a family and became teachers. And I was always performing. It never dawned on me that it could be a job. And I went through school and I was, singing and being in the plays, but I went to school. My bachelor's is computer science. I was in corporate. And I did my master's in elementary education. I was a teacher, went into administration, got my doctorate. And all the time I was always dealing with computers. But I would always be the one that they would say, you understand this stuff. You can explain this. Could you go talk to? Could you present? Could you go teach? Wound up teaching student management systems, wound up speaking in front of the state education department. And during the pandemic, we wound up with my job being accessed. And I said, you know what? I've heard that you can actually talk for a living. And I'd already started dabbling in voiceover. And Edge was one of the first places actually that I went, and I started learning information. I'm like, holy cow, this is a real thing. And I said, you know what, I'm taking the leap, and went full time and said, I kind of need a booth, honey. And my husband's a stagehand, sound and lighting guy. And he said, I think we can take care of that. So in the second floor, there's a spare room. And we originally built my booth. It's 4x6. And the outside is MDF. But because it was on the second floor, we couldn't do 2 layers of MDF because we were really concerned about the weight. So there's a layer of MDF. Then it's foam, real thick foam. And then inside, there's all these lath strips. And instead of the inside being a whole nother hard layer, we lined it with this carpety kind of stuff. And, my education background comes out because this functions as like the world's biggest flannel board, if you remember those. Each of these is on with Velcro so that I can move them around. Because I found sometimes, depending on what I'm doing, if I'm bouncing around with animation or something else, I need them in a different place. When we had brought my booth downstairs, we actually had to shorten it. So it worked out really well because I had to move all those around. Coming out of education, one of the things I did was grab some things that I hope might be of use to someone else. When my booth was upstairs, we had to insulate, sound insulated from the floor because so much vibration comes through the beams. And what we wound up doing, we had researched, if you can see this, these are rubber cups that come from a plumbing supply place and tennis balls. And we wound up making a floor, having these, and then building the booth on top. So it was a floating floor, which worked really, really well if someone's got to, build a booth. I had to eliminate those because when I came downstairs to the basement, it's like a foot shorter, but also I didn't have to worry about the vibration. It is nice and quiet down here. The foam, my booth, it looks really, and in many ways it is really, really, really professionally made. But I want people to know that so often you can take things that you have and put to use what you have while you're building up your career. All these foam triangles, because I needed the traps for the noise, all these foam triangles, I hand cut because I had made a really big window cushion and I had an extra piece of foam that was like 4 inches thick. So what I did was I actually cut triangles out of the foam and we drilled holes and put a dowel rod through them and then glued them up so that I don't have, a square space up there. But it was something I had that I was able to repurpose instead of, going out. Everything you buy, costs money. So I repurposed those. My floor originally had a rug upstairs, but we didn't realize when we bought it, it was crunchy. It wasn't a soft, supple rug, and I was actually getting some noise when I would move my chair or walk around. So now what I actually have is I have a little old Oriental rug that I picked up at a thrift store, and it's nice and soft. My computer is down here. I run a mini Mac because it doesn't have a fan. It's nice and quiet. But I'm actually running Windows under boot camp because I'm a PC kid. So I'm still running PC. What I did for this is it's actually hanging off the table, and I'll show you my basket in a second. But down here also, if you want to talk about ventilation, my husband was really concerned that he was going to come home and find me passed out because I'm in the booth quite a bit. That's actually a vent that's connected to a baffle box outside that he built. And it has a 30-foot long hose, which is built out of just dryer hose and duct tape. and it's 30 feet long, and on the other end is a quiet fan, but it's at the other end of the 30 feet. One of the mistakes we made when we were upstairs is the fan was right outside the booth above the baffle box. And then, the vent went out further. And I still got a little bit of noise when the fan was on. So one of the changes that we made is to put it at the other end of the hose. It's like, these are all the things you learn. My mic is an Audio-Technica 4050 for a couple of reasons. It works well with my voice. It was something I had a line on and could get at a very reasonable price compared to the usual $600-something. And it's one of the microphones recommended by Dan Friedman. And I had my booth checked by Frank Verderosa, check the noise floor, check everything else. He's the one who said I needed some bass traps and the things. But he also told me something really, really important. He said, why is your microphone right side up? It needs to be upside down. And those are little things. It's like you don't know that you don't know. And as soon as I turned it upside down, it made a difference in the sound. My interface is a Steinberg UR222 Mark II, and it's been a happy little clam. I started out with the Scarlett Solo, which is now part of my travel rig. It worked really well, but I had some questions about something that it was doing. I went to this, have no questions about it. My computer on this table is hanging just from one of these. And I got this on Amazon. It is literally like one of those shelf things that you put in a closet to put extra things on. I just don't have the front panel on it because I needed it to hang on the desk, because this desk I got for Christmas, it's one of my favorite things. It's an adjustable height desk. So that it goes down, it goes up, because I record as much as I can, unless I'm doing one of my 49-page e-learnings. I record standing up, but I edit sitting down. And the idea of having to have two desks or two this, two that was just awful. So for Christmas, one of my favorite things now is this adjustable height desk. Things that you don't think of. My mic stand is in the back. Okay, it's one of these. I had it attached on the side. Before we wound up with a really good fan setup, my husband had built a window so that I could open it. And the window has a windowsill. Not knowing or not thinking about it, the first time I brought the desk up, you heard this horrible crunching sound because the back of the mic stand just went screaming past the windowsill. I'm like, okay, it's time to move that. I just didn't think about it. I do have a question for people. As much as I love my mic stand because it's adjustable, every once in a while, if a cord hits it, it rings. And you get a little bit of noise. And then you have to stop. You got to go back, do a pickup. So I'm wondering if anybody else knows a nice adjustable mic stand that doesn't have those springs that ring.
There is Bonnie, first of all, this is so cool. I think everyone is just quiet. Like, it's so much fun to look at this and see the thought to see how you've grown with your studio and learned so much on your own. And I have so many comments, but I will say that there was a past home studio show and tell episode with a guy who had let me just go look and see. He had 3 different microphone stands, and I think one would be exactly what you're looking for. Let me go back and check that episode number. I'm looking right now. Okay, if anyone else has a thought to that, please put it in the chat, please.
And I have a couple of other show and tell things. In the basement, one of the few noise problems I have, doesn't everyone have a second refrigerator for like beer and holiday food, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, that one makes a little more noise. Rather than unplugging the thing all the time, I have this wonderful little smart gadget. So here, let's see if we can do this. It's a little bright. What you probably can't see is there's a little round button on this side. I'm sure you can hear it. So it's plugged into here, and this is an on-off button so that I now have it someplace that I can reach and shut it off. What I will caution you, though, if you wind up using something like this, or even if you're unplugging your fridge, be kind to the devices. Be kind to your appliances. If you're going to shut them off for a little while. Compressors hate on, off, on, off. You will wear out your fridge really fast and your washing machine. But this came in really handy. Like Chris, I needed to tell the family that I was recording. I've got the Amazon buttons because I've always wanted an easy button. So this does the same thing as the command. I can do it with my phone, but I have this, and it will actually light up and turn on a light up in the kitchen. And my husband also has a light in the garage so that he doesn't do things like start power tools. So I have an on button and an off button that will turn on the lights. And it's just fun to hit the button.
Bonnie, episode 10,
10.
Home Studio
Great.
Show and Tell. Yeah. There, two gentlemen went on that particular episode. One is James Romick, who is on tonight. And James, you just posted a very funny comment just like 6 minutes ago, like a Yogi Berra quote. In that episode, and he has an amazing studio, one of the best sounding studios ever. Another gentleman went on that show, Jason Birmingham, who had in his episode, I remember he talked about 3 different microphone stands. They were all identical, but he just had them by his desk. So whatever microphone he needed to record with, it was just set up already. He didn't need to go and necessarily switch mics. He could pull out the one he wanted. And I think that might be the kind of microphone stand you would be looking for.
That sounds great.
Check out, yeah, episode 10. If anyone happens to know what that is or has any other comments, please feel welcome to post them.
Yeah. And I think somebody asked me what button it was. It's an Amazon button. We got them from Amazon.
Yeah, and someone is there are a lot of interesting questions here. To briefly kind of catch up on a couple of things, Bonnie mentioned something about not having. Well, sorry, let me back up. When she talked about the ceiling panels and the triangular cut foam on the ceiling, she mentioned that it was nice to not have a square room, and that's a very important item in the construction of a studio. When you have a perfectly square room, you get standing waves. You get the sound waves that bounce back and forth called flutter echo. And so by having a room that has some shape to it, that the sound waves, they get dispersed more readily. And so it tends to give a better sound quality. There was someone on one of these episodes recently, Nicole Franco, who had a trifold. I think she's on. In fact, I think I saw her name. Nicole's on here. Hey, Nicole. She had a room divider, a trifold room divider, like you might buy at IKEA, for example, as one of the walls of her studio because it breaks it up and it's self-standing. And so it's really, really nice to have rooms that do have some angles to them. Someone is asking about why the microphone sounds better upside down. I think it works for different studios. At Edge Studio and in all of our rooms, we have the microphones right side up. They are not upside down, and we have really, really like wonderful sound quality. Yet my microphone here is upside down, just that I'm using here. Mine is upside down just because it worked better for my the configuration of my little desk space here. So that just works for me. It wasn't done because it sounds better. But I'm hearing more and more people say it actually sounds better to have your microphone upside down. And I wonder, James Romick, if you have any thoughts on that, if you want to share some thoughts, we could turn your mic on if you wanted to talk, or you can chat if you want. But if anyone on this call might know, I think that you might be the person to know that the answer to that question. Why does a microphone sound better upside down? And if so, what kind of microphones? Certainly, I don't think it would make any difference with a shotgun microphone, but a large diaphragm microphone. What about a USB microphone versus an XLR microphone? So we could do a whole study on that. That would be interesting. If anyone has any thoughts on that, James or anyone, please share those thoughts in the chat or let us know and we can turn you on. Okay. And it's so cool, Bonnie. Even seeing the little carpet flap that's under your monitor where you have like a little little storage shelves.
You know what this
things
is?
Like that.
This, I'm very big. Oh God, I've been a tree hugger since high school. This is actually, it was insulation inside something. It is shredded and reused denim, like jeans.
Cool.
And I actually used it. Hang on, I'm gonna join the living here.
Yeah, we hang on, Bonnie, one moment. We're turning James Romick on. Oh, Bonnie, there you are. Hello, Bonnie. Hey, James, are you on?
Oh, hello. Oh,
hey, James.
Can you hear me? Hi.
Yeah. Yes.
There's all kinds of theories about upside down, right side up, and I don't know that it makes any difference. As long as the mic proximity is good. I mean, all of mine are mounted upside down and tilted away from me, so I, don't have a plosive problem. A lot of people talk past them rather than directly into the capsule. One of the reasons that mine are mounted upside down is because I do audiobooks, so I need to see my script. So if it was mounted down here and I was talking into it here, it'd be in the way. I couldn't read. But I don't know that technically it makes any difference at all. I know Frank and I respect his comment, but I just don't know that it really makes all that much difference. I prefer mine mounted upside down.
Yeah. It may be me. I mean, one of the things about being 5'4" and shrinking.
Oh, there you go.
And it may be just simply between the stand and everything else. I know that everybody is so different.
And the other thing too
is
one of the reasons that I tell people not to get those boom arms that have the springs in them, because there's something called sympathetic vibration. And years and years and years ago, and David would know this, in old studios, there was a reverb unit called a spring reverb, and it was an actual spring. And if certain frequencies in your voice would activate those springs, they will vibrate and they will create some kind of reflection. So the Rode, what is the PSA 1 Plus that I put in the chat? I love them. They're great.
Thank you. And it's funny because that ring drives me. When I hit it, it's like, argh.
Yeah. And good shock mount. I don't know if you have a shock mount. I can't see. It's kind of dark. Yeah.
Sorry.
Good shock mount would do. I have the Roy Coat shock mounts, which are, aftermarket. They're a little bit more expensive, but they're really, really nice. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
That sounds good. And in the beginning, it's like, well, you have to cobble together something. But then these are the kinds of things like, okay, yeah, now a shock mount. That's a better one of this, a better one of that. And I'm in that place. It's like, yeah, now it's going to make a little bit of difference, and I can, work towards that. So thank you,
James. Thank you.
I just, thank you, James, and that we just had 2 performers spotlit at the same time, y'all. To I believe, Bonnie, you come from a theater background. Is that my understanding?
My family was a family of performers, and so my father, after they retired from there, they went into education. My father taught chorus and modern drama for 20 some odd years in high school. And from the minute I could walk, I was thrown on stage. I, was in choruses and everything else, but I didn't pursue it separately because it just didn't dawn on me. It was just something we did. I also thought everyone grew up with a piano in the living room. I thought everybody sang, that's the way life was.
Your presentation was great because y'all, we tell our guests, like, pre-show, we're like, okay, so we'll do a little session where you talk for a moment about who you are and your background, and like Bonnie, just like, you just ran with it. You were like, boom, here's the you have this person. It was like story time with a voice actor. You know what I mean? It was like we couldn't see your face, and we were just looking at your studio, hearing the story of your studio. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's cool seeing inside it. Bonnie, I do have a couple of questions. One, tell us about the ring light. Is that for just when you're Zooming in situations like this, or do you keep that on for clients? Are you often visual with the client when you're recording and you're being directed?
I've got a good mix. I do tend to use it because I've had, I know that there's a t-shirt that, like we're in a dark padded room talking to ourselves all day. And there are days it feels like really dark in here. I'll use it because I like sunlight. I like light. But I definitely use it more often when I'm on Zoom, when I'm on Source Connect, when I'm dealing with human beings.
Referencing another past episode, I think it was maybe 2 months ago or so, Rosie and Brian Amador went, and they had windows in their studios. And they said the name of the company that made their windows, it's called soundproofedwindows.com. I'm not sure if it's soundproof or soundproofedwindows.com. I'm sure you could find it. But if any of you have windows in your studio, that's maybe a nice thing to do, is get a soundproofed window.
We have some of the very basic soundproofing. This is another hack. So in my window is actually a piece of the same styrofoam that's in the walls. And I needed to cover it because, it's that fiberglass stuff. And fiberglass is absolutely god-awful for you, and it scratches.
Yeah, it's itchy.
So I took one of those, like, Amazon gift bags from last Christmas, and I stuffed the panel in here, and I cut it the right size, and it actually sits in my window. So for now, that's my soundproofed window.
That's great. Yeah, that's MacGyvering a studio, as so many of us do. Are there any questions for Bonnie?
So we've had a lot of chat going on, and Bonnie's been in the chat as well, multitasking as she is.
Oh.
But we do have great idea and amazing sound. Longer life capsule cooler.
Oh, one thing I did want to mention about Bonnie's studio also. So I remembered a few things to talk about, right? We talked about the angled walls and so on. Ventilation, guys. For those of you who are not familiar with ventilation in a studio, the rooms do get warm, and it just makes perfect sense to have a fan, but of course the fan is loud. And so the theory is, and I think it's probably mathematically exact or true, that if you port in ventilation from a distant space, the tube that carries the sound, the longer the length of that tube that carries, sorry, I said sound, I meant the air, the tube that carries the air into your booth, the longer that length is, the more time there is for the sound to quiet down. More importantly, every time you make a 90-degree bend with the ductwork, I think the sound, the decibels are cut in half. If anyone knows that mathematical formula, I think it's like a 90-degree turn means the decibels are cut in half. And so very often the ventilation tubes, the ductwork, are made to look like intestines, like they're kind of loopy and they spin in circles and stuff. The problem is the longer that ductwork is, the less air is getting into your booth, right? Because the air sort of dies down. So you need a more powerful fan at the outset to kind of push the air all the way through. And of course, a more powerful fan can also be louder. So there's finding a balance that's really hard. Bonnie, I guess you found it, right? With a 30-foot run, it seems to work.
It's a 30-foot run that goes into a baffle box.
Okay.
And if you don't know what a baffle box is, it's MDF for me, and mine is vertical. It was horizontal when I was upstairs, but I don't have the kind of room. Inside, exactly what you're talking about, it has airspace around another piece of MDF, and they're like this, like a maze, so that the air is going through this way. So the sound is being softened. Also, let me see, way back up in the corner, way back up in the corner, that bunch of stuff in the corner, there's also a fan speed, so that I have it on very, very low unless I'm just editing. So I can crank the fan speed, or I can have it all the way down at 1, but at least there's a little bit of positive airflow.
So have you done a test to see how high you can put that fan before it gets hit by or picked up by the microphone?
Actually, I haven't. That's a great idea.
Yeah, it would be interesting to find out. Maybe you could go to 2 or 3.
I might.
Or maybe you find out, but maybe you find out that 1 is getting picked up. Even like level 1 is getting picked up.
I have a tendency to turn it off to record, just as a safety precaution.
Yeah, makes sense. Oh, fabulous. Bonnie, thank you so much. Any last questions for Bonnie? Anyone? Bonnie, do you have any questions for anyone else?
I think we're good. And Chris, it was so much fun being on with you and your kids. What a great thing. Just a completely different life, and what a wonderful, wonderful start, and great family.
Thank you. It was great to see your studio here too.
Thanks.
Fabulous. Everyone, you should, like I said, binge watch our show, Home Studio Show and Tell. The episodes, each episode is like this, just a completely different set of studios. Very, very, very cool.
I can tell that people here are versed in the experience, because I used to, when we started doing these, I used to be like, okay, now what's one thing you wish you had, or a question, or you would change? And like, everybody's already built that into their presentation. Like, wow, it's really, those 14 episodes have come a long way, David. So nice job. Let me, in our last few minutes here, again, y'all, these 2 folks plus the family, they donated their time here. They join in. This is such a community effort and activity. So we here at Edge really appreciate. Thank you both. It was wonderful to see your spaces. I'll release you from the spotlight that I've chained you to, as it were. And before you go, as we were talking about at the beginning, we mentioned we do offer home studio consultations here at Edge. So if you are inspired and you wanna be like Bonnie and Chris and fam, I don't blame you. Even having James's cameo was so good. So please do that. You will never regret having someone professionally come in and talk to you about your specific space. It's not a thing we can do into this, group hour, but hopefully you had some takeaways here and some things that brought you some good feelings as we get to the end of the year already. With that being said, I'm just going to ask this publicly to David. David, are we doing a December home studio show and tell?
Of course we are.
All right. Of course we are. Can't stop, won't stop. So then that would be December 5th. Right? The first or second Tuesday?
It is the
first, right?
First Tuesday of the month. Yeah.
Yes. So that would be December 5th, y'all, at this time, which is 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And so we'll be here. That will be our last episode of the year because it is almost the end of the year. Sorry to remind you of that right now. But want to thank everybody again. This was a really great, focused, good, well done hour, and well done everyone.
Well, Siobhan, thank you for hosting us so amazingly. Bonnie, Chris, Eliana, Gracia, you guys rock. Thank you so much for bringing us into your home studio and showing us around. That was fascinating. Everyone, thank you for being on this call, for joining us tonight, and for everyone who watches this post tonight. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and hopefully everyone else did as well.
Thank you, everybody.